Follow the buzzer. Rest in peace. Woo! The best there is, the best there was, and the best ever will be. What you gonna do, brother? Hey, yo.
Can you see me now?
Strategy my Oklahoma ass.
Life sucks, and then you die.
Welcome to another episode of the JM Report. I'm your host, GoodOlJM. This is episode 79, and yes, it's definitely pronouns and proper pronunciations. Yeah, that works. But it's definitely been a long time since I've done this. I'll say about a month or so, give or take. And no, I wasn't on vacation, believe it or not. Sure, imagine I'm over a month's worth of vacations and not get paid for it. No, I believe I mentioned in my last episode, again, over a month ago, that I was able to obtain a promotions position with Cox Media Group. Yes, I know. Let the jokes begin. Out here in the Tampa Bay area, and I was very fortunate. And because the time I was hired, I'm going to say around Halloween time, and of course November, December, there's a lot of holidays. So there were so many gigs, and half of them ran for so many hours. You see, I dare say a few of them were even doubles. More than 8 hours, and it just consumed a lot of my time. And when it came to my days off, I just didn't want to get out of bed. I'll be honest. Who works over 16 hours in one night and goes home, falls asleep, and it's basically the same date waking up. And that threw. Matter of fact, even having Christmas in the middle of the week, it threw me off so much. And out here, the school schedule for high schoolers, junior high schoolers, is very different from anywhere else in the country. They had over 2 weeks off for New Year's as well. And I was just so used to having the kids, not my kids, I don't have kids, but my nieces and nephews that come over basically every day after school. And for over 2 weeks, that didn't happen because, family time. And again, Christmas Eve was just, it was fun, a good time, dinner with the family, and it just threw me off. I woke up that Wednesday morning and it's still Christmas? Wait, what day is it? I for some reason, it felt like a Sunday to me. And it took me, I don't know, a couple of more hours to get my mind back in, focus, among other things. And just balance out the schedule. And I think some of the gigs are going to calm down a bit. Not that they're not going to be any, but calm down enough where, okay, you guys don't need me for this day, that day, so I'm going to take that time to go back what I was doing before and see if I can balance out everything that's happening now and then some later on. So with that said, I hope everyone had a tremendous holiday celebration. Happy New Year. Couple of almost 2 weeks late, but Happy New Year. Finally made it to 2020. A whole new decade to start. And be honest, who's sticking to their New Year's resolution so far? Anybody? Not to brag, but I have. And it's the same one that a lot of people do every year, where they're going to try to stick to a healthy system, I guess, where you eat better and try to be active every day, even if it is half an hour's worth of your time to about 2-3 hours of your time, and try to remain as healthy as possible, become healthy as possible, and eat better. So my goal is, and I know once in a while the body needs it, but not every day, not all day, and that's to consume as less sugar as possible. I'll admit, I'm a sucker for it. And then, yeah, what the hell does this got to do with wrestling, Bob? What? I'm getting there. Just, I'm a sucker for sweets, not candy or anything like that. It's the sodas. Growing up, it was sodas every day. And I come to realize that, yeah, I've been knowing it's just one of those, it's an addiction. It's a form of addiction where you just couldn't stop. And for as much as I tried several times, one point I made it maybe about 5 months, I want to say, without consuming any kind of sugar whatsoever. And it helped. I felt better, but then it's like, I'll just take one. Yeah, just take it. So basically I fell off the wagon. And I didn't like the results. And even though the doctor, haven't seen one in about last summer, everything's okay, but I want it to be better, or at least say you're in good health. When you say okay, things need to be improved. So here we are 10 days into the new year, and I've done something active, whether it's a little bit of cardio, a little bit of exercising, calisthenics, yoga, DDP yoga to be exact, bang, or just going to the gym for a couple hours. But I'm doing something. Whether it's right before I go to bed, in the middle of the day, between meals, whatever it is, whenever it is, I'm trying to do something. And I have some equipment at home that I could use. I finally got a yoga mat, so that helps. And some free weights, so nothing too extreme, but enough just to maintain, basically, in short. So before I get into all the news here, and just a heads up, no Raw review, even though I touched a little bit on what happened. SmackDown obviously is tonight. This is a Friday, January 10th to be exact, for keeping record, 2020. I did see NXT, but no review, and I missed AEW, although a colleague of mine said, well, not to spoil it, but you need to check it out. So I avoid spoilers since then. And I have it DVR'd, so once I finish here, I'll go home, I'll check it out. And a couple of things coming up here. Be on the lookout for more episodes of Talking with JM. I'm not going to mention who they'll be, but quite interesting and surprising people that I was able to reach out to or communicate with or have a connection with. And it will be quite an interesting conversation. Separately, I'm looking at about, for now, 2 more episodes of Talking with JM, so stay tuned for that. And let's ring in the new year on a good foot, on a good note, whatever's good for you. Yeah, hop on it. So with that said, how about we get into some wrestling news? These are completely random stories that I was able to fetch during the week, and I just threw it into my notes here. And first off, the Hardy Boys. Where have they been? What are they doing? What have they been up to? The whole 9 yards. Turns out that Matt Hardy's contract is expiring much sooner than many people thought. Well, first off, there were some reports that it was expiring at the end of February. Now, those reports were off by a day or so. Actually, March 1st, Matt Hardy's expiring. Well, he's not expiring, but the contract that he has with WWE is expiring on the 1st of March. According to PW Insider, again, making the mistake of others reporting this originally in February, the expiration date, it was not. He is currently not agreed to an extension with WWE, although one was offered to him. His issue is not with money, so that's a good sign of a good person, but how he will be used creatively. Now, recently, and it's been maybe a few weeks now, but Matt Hardy returned to Raw, I would say for about 2 or 3 episodes, and competed in matches completely out of nowhere. Unfortunately, all in losing efforts, but it was a good sign that, okay, Matt Hardy's still around. It looked like he kind of meshed his Woken gimmick with modern Attitude Era Matt Hardy with the Brood a little bit, bringing back the old baggy black jeans again, but still holding up the Mattitude V1 sign. So it's a hell of a meshing if you think about it. Basically 3 characters into one, but it's all from the same person. And he looked great. He looked great. He slimmed down a little bit. He's a father of 2 children now. So he's a busy man, being daddy and trying to work as much as possible. But with time winding down, and this happens, I mean, think about it. Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley, when this time was coming up, he was losing on the way out. But, you know, he did the honors, as they say. No whining, no complaining, because he knew the end was near. And by the last couple of weeks, he was off television and let his contract quietly expire. And next thing you know, he's on AEW. So right now, it's up in the air whether or not Matt Hardy would extend the contract, what kind of role he would have. I don't know whatever happened to that producer's position backstage. What wasn't last year? It was about a year and a half ago, SummerSlam of 2018. He was training, for lack of a better term, to be a producer backstage. No word if he's still doing that or if that's still an option. Not to confuse everybody, but we're talking about a talent's contract here, a wrestler's contract to be precise. For all we know, he could still be a backstage talent, but that's a different contract from what a wrestler would sign. So Matt Hardy may not be completely done with WWE. He might retire altogether with WWE, which I believe was his and his brother's original plan, to return and hang it up there when the time was right. So no update. I haven't heard anything again about backstage producing or what do you call it? A talent agent. So we'll find out. Everything's up in the air. It's up to Matt. Although he's been putting out videos. If you've been following him on Twitter and his YouTube channel about free to delete, hashtag free to delete. I mean, is he's trying to say, hey, let it expire, let the contract delete itself or whatnot. Not making it too cryptic, but I'm not saying it's too obvious either. But time will tell. Either way, Matt Hardy has done everything he could in the business that he loved so much growing up. He and his brother, they trained together when they were kids, probably still in junior high school. They self-trained and made it. Just look back in the early days of Monday Night Raw. These 2 little skinny kids with, I think it was Jeff, that had the mullet. It wasn't Matt. But either way, they had like a little mohawk thing going for a while with the plaid tights. And then they evolved into the Hardy Boys under the tutelage of Michael Hayes. Joined the Brood, which today I still don't know what the payoff with that was, besides getting Michael Hayes off television. And then having the original Brood turn on Gangrel. No, well, the new Brood of Matt and Jeff teamed up with Gangrel, and then they turned on the old Brood of Edge and Christian, and that's how, when, and where that feud started back in '99. As far as Jeff goes, well, once again, according to PW Insider, Jeff's deal will not be up at the same time, but because of his legal and medical issues currently ongoing, his deal has been extended several months. So this is similar to what happened to Luke Harper. He was out on injury. His contract was about to expire, but then it was extended. They had nothing for him creatively. They brought him back for a cup of coffee worth of time, teaming up once again with Eric Rowan. And once that was done, he just went back to not doing anything list. Well, that's it. We're done with you. Especially after the draft that I believe didn't do favors to some people, but they do what they can to get as much TV time for them. I'll give them that much, even if it is on main event. But as far as Jeff Hardy goes, WWE has that right to extend the contract without notifying the talent, in this case Jeff Hardy, to an extension. Several months, no word as far as exactly how many several months is months, or how many months is several months. Could be 7, could be the rest of the year. But who's to say the same thing won't happen to Jeff when he's freed from his trial date that's coming up from his recent DWI, which was, actually it's coming up on the 13th. Jeff Hardy has a hearing on his DWI from last year. And not the one where he was publicly intoxicated. And that's a separate issue. So what's the deal with Jeff? Even if he gets better and gets the help he needs, will WWE once again roll the dice on him, take a chance and put him back on television to maybe enhance other talents? Definitely not a title run, because what sense would that make? The Usos just came back last week on SmackDown. You know, who was it? Jay that was suspended. Jimmy was doing commentating for a while and not in the ring unless there was some kind of conversation where, you know what, don't have anything creative for me, I'll return when my brother does, which I think is noble if that was the case. But they were immediately put in a primary angle with Roman Reigns. I almost said a Rover. I'm so sorry. Dolph Ziggler and King Corbin, which, by the way, the Usos have their first match tonight on SmackDown versus said King Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. No, it's not a main event spot. No, it's not a championship spot or anything like that. But Usos came back and they skyrocketed right up there. And as far as Jeff goes, well, let's just say he has more red on his ledger than the Usos do as far as suspensions and arrests. It sucks that it has to be looked that way when you look at the details, that is. But it's a risk, isn't it? I mean, if you're running a company and you have this employee or independent contractor, you know, under your wing, you intentionally extended their contract. And the only reason, of course, is, let's say for the sake of argument, Jeff's contract was going to expire the same time that his brother was. I mean, they signed the exact same time when they returned to WrestleMania in Orlando. Maybe not expired the exact same date, but around the same time. I mean, look when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, they were 1 week apart from their contracts expiring before they jumped to WCW. So it's possible. But point being, and let's be honest, extend Jeff Hardy's contract, so let's not make him jump anywhere else. So it always falls back to the old, we don't have anything for you, but at the same time, we don't want you to go anywhere else. There's some form of income, sure. If they get some TV time, they'll get that revenues. They'll get some merch income. But if you're off TV and you're slowly, your character-wise, slowly dying a death, and no one knows who you are anymore, no one remembers you, or gives two thoughts of like, where's so-and-so? Hey, what happened? No one's chanting, we want Jeff, we want Matt in the audience. Could they do that? Sure. But have they? Have some of the audience smarten up and say, well, we know why Jeff's not around. And it would be great to see him again. And it's funny how the pro wrestling audience could be so loyal like that. You can screw up as bad as Jeff, being down the shithole like Hulk Hogan was a few years ago. Time passes by and most won't forget. I really doubt that the rest will forgive. But because it's who they are, they welcome back with open arms. Again, is all forgotten? No. Is all forgiven? Hell no. But if your name still draws and it helps everybody else under the talent pool, but then by all means, maybe a special attraction status for Jeff Hardy. They could have done that with Matt, have him come back, or have him brand jump. I mean, who's to say he can't hang around with NXT for a while and enhance those talents? I mean, you know how many dream matches Matt Hardy could have with the current NXT roster? But the Hardy Boys, in short, who knows what's going to happen for them. I really do hope Jeff gets the help that he sorely needs, feels better, and just leaves that, I guess, sort of lifestyle behind, because it does you no good. And we'll see what happens with Matt Hardy as well. But hopefully he sticks around where he can accept the Hall of Fame induction. And that'll be another question brought up. Do you induct them at the same time or separately? Either way, both Matt and Jeff have done well in tag teams or as individual careers. So last weekend, New Japan Pro Wrestling had their annual pay-per-view of Wrestle Kingdom. Unfortunately, I found out too late because I was expecting Access to broadcast it. And they did not. And apparently there was a memo put out that Access was not going to air the delayed Wrestle Kingdom on Access TV. So I had to read up about it. And one of the interesting notes to come out of Wrestle Kingdom altogether, that AEW champion Chris Jericho, after his match, had a press conference and suggested that AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling should work together. Now, that's his suggestion. That's his idea. And, well, Jericho, he means well. But apparently this came to a surprise those in charge of AEW itself, and had no idea that Jericho would say or make such a statement. But the Young Bucks was interviewed by ESPN West Palm to chime in as to, well, were you aware of what Chris Jericho said? Were you a part of that conference? Are there any plans made moving forward with New Japan? Well, Nick Jackson said, well, that was just a rumor. Nothing's happening. I think Chris Jericho just did that to get the internet to talk a little bit more about the situation, but the door has not opened up at all. We wish them luck in what they are doing because, like Matt said, with NXT, a lot of our friends work in New Japan. Most of them are our friends. We have friends everywhere in the wrestling world. If something came along then, we would open up, but nothing is happening right now. According to PW Insider, for those who have asked if there is any progress whatsoever between New Japan and AEW, the answer is no. So, two parties, one from the source and one who gets the intel from said source, say the same thing, that there's nothing happening right now. Of course, this could all change, and that Chris Jericho might have sparked interest. Matt and Nick Jackson could say, and they are saying, the door is not open. Doesn't mean that it's padlocked shut and you got two Rottweilers protecting it. It's the wrestling world, and before AEW was in existence, it's ironic that a lot of the talent that's running and are involved with AEW now had a working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Of course, Cody, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Jericho. And they just went off to do their own thing. Nothing wrong with that. It wasn't like New Japan wasn't prepared or made aware ahead of time. And even then, there were some stories that New Japan was unaware. They were aware that they were going to do their own thing. They weren't too sure and not aware that it would be what it is today, and that being a new wrestling company in existence in the world, that being AEW. No animosity, no hard feelings, nothing like that. No beef, as the kids used to say. But it's been done before. And honestly, and as a fan, I'm saying this, I don't see how it can't be done. They've had so many working relationships and done business together before AEW came to fruition, and I say, why not? There's a lot of potential there as far as having more great matches, whether it's in Japan or here in the States. The mention of the AEW Championship and tease Hiroshi Tanahashi getting a title shot versus Chris Jericho was never meant to be anything more than a storyline to drive interest into their match at Wrestle Kingdom 14 last weekend. So that's once again according to PW Insider. And people said, not said, but put on social media how great would it have been for Tanahashi to appear in AEW, even if it is a one night off. A one night off? What's the point of showing up, right? I meant a one off. And appeared on Dynamite or the next AEW pay-per-view, which is Bash at the Beach. And real quick, for those who are wondering, well, how can AEW have the same name pay-per-view as a WCW or WWE pay-per-view named Bash at the Beach? Well, it's a trademark name that WWE had under their control, never used. Maybe the Bash. Well, no, that was for the Great American Bash. But Bash at the Beach or Beach Blast was never used by WWE after they bought out WCW. So that particular trademark name expired. And it was available to be picked up. In this case, AEW paid for the rights, and now they own it for the time being. And that's the name of the next upcoming pay-per-view, Bash at the Beach. So see, kids, if you're not using a name that you used for a while and it gains some recognition for a while, and for a time you don't use it, and again, it's copyrighted, those expire. Imagine one day WrestleMania is not called WrestleMania because some Vince or someone in his quote little inner circle forgot to renew it, and now Wrestle Kingdom becomes WrestleMania Kingdom or something like that because oops, yeah, we screwed up. Now we gotta wait for that to expire if they ever allow that, or just name WrestleMania something else. Awkward. So right now there's been no discussion between either side ever since Wrestle Kingdom 14 to be exact. But again, Young Bucks say the door is closed, but it doesn't mean that it can't be knocked on. And maybe somebody from AEW side could answer. Well, many have seen this already through social media, but everyone else will probably see it tonight at some point during SmackDown. But Mandy Rose, no longer a blonde. Believe it or not. I guess someone finally realized there's too many blondes. Nothing wrong with that, but how naive must you be to not be able to tell one blonde from the other? I mean, they dress differently. They act and speak differently. But, photos taken earlier this week on her Instagram and posted and reposted by Reddit. And she's more, not completely brunette, but definitely, I would say more of a, there's blonde, there's brunette, there's dirty blonde, there's brown hair, there's beige. But I'm going to say it looks more like whatever shade of color would be darker than dirty blonde. If you ever seen my headshots, clearly I'm into beauticians and know how to deal with hair and comb it and dye it, everything. Yeah. But what was interesting is that it was unclear whether or not the new look would stay or if it was just for experimenting purposes. But I do remember when I used to watch an episode of Total Divas. This might have been the first season, and that was the only season I've watched. And I watched a couple episodes when Nia Jax first debuted, and that was it. I'm sorry, I can't deal with it. Anyway, it was when Eva Marie was coming in, and the feud with the Bellas was already setting up. So if you didn't watch total divas, you wouldn't understand and why they were feuding on TV so much. So Eva Marie came in as a brunette. And for some reason, I still don't see it even looking back now. I still don't see it. But one of the producers said that, oh, this Eva Marie looks too much like the Bellas. Like, how? I mean, if that's the case, why not make her the third Bella or something? Like a triplets. Triplets? Is that what they call? But that remind me of the old Von Erich routine that they pulled that no one was behind. What was it? Mike Von Erich? Like a distant relative of the Von Erich family. They trying to squeeze in there, and the fans saw through it immediately. And pretty much that guy's career was over afterwards. But with Eva Marie, she was a brunette. And one of the producers was suggesting we need to, change the hair color. And the line that will never leave my mind when it comes to any producer or any talent agent backstage suggesting to a wrestler, quote, "We know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. So do this." And this referring to making changes to your appearance or attire. So it was suggested for Eva Marie to do or to get a blonde look. And yeah, I know it's reality. I know this and that nonsense. How much of it was a work? And personally, I don't care. But a work or not, it was a ballsy move on Eva Marie's part. And this is where it all began for everything red. So Eva Marie came back, not as a blonde, but literally red, fire red, ruby red, whatever the exact red color that was. She goes back to the same agent or producer, and she's in shock. It's like, what happened? What did you do? What did that? Well, in her defense, Eva Marie is like, well, it was different. How many blondes are there in WWE? How many brunettes are there in WWE? Was Eva Marie the first one to break that mold? Probably not. She can't be the first one because, look at Bo Nakano, who just celebrated her birthday this past week. She had always multicolored hair, not to mention it was spiked up like 4 feet tall. Goodness gracious. And I'm sure there were others from the 80s and 90s who broke that mold to not always be a blonde, not to always be a brunette. But Eva Marie's case, full-fledged red, everything red. And what pissed me off, again, whether it's worked or not, that the same producer / agent said, well, next time clear it with us first. We told you to do one thing and then doing another. But you know what? It worked out. She stood out from everybody else. A attractive person, had this amazing tan fit body and with the red hair. It was unique and different. Yeah. If you see her now, I think her hair is purple. On Instagram, always posting up photo shoots, and yeah, her hair is purple. What's wrong with being different? Obviously, that agent, producer, whatever, had a problem with it as far as being standing out and different. But with Mandy Rose, if it's one of those issues where there's too many blondes, then yeah, I say, Mandy, you're still going to have your fans. You're still going to look amazing no matter how great you look in and out of the ring. So good for her. So Kevin Nash, my goodness, oh my goodness. Okay. Back on January 5th, right after New Year's, Kevin Nash took to his official Twitter account and simply said, "For the time, I'm retired." There was no need to have any kind of time to let that sink in other than a little bit of shock. Because Nash, if he wants, he could still go. So he's currently filming a movie with Alec Baldwin to be released sometime in the summer. But apparently this past week, people were questioning how and when the timing of Nash's announcement of retirement, the same week that Jushin Thunder Liger retired, another great legend. So Nash takes to Instagram to show and explain why. And quite honestly, he didn't have to do this. But 2 years ago, Nash had knee replacement surgery. I have not had that. My father had. And it's different today than when my dad had his surgery. But therapy, the physical therapy, all of that is no joke. Rehabbing, it's no joke after that type of surgery. No set time limit. In this and Kevin Nash's case, took 2 years. So if you saw this on the 7th, matter of fact, just a couple of days after he announced his retirement, not only did he confirm his retirement, he showed why. He posted a before and a recent picture. So after the surgery he had of knee replacement and current Kevin Nash. And if you look at that post-surgery picture, his leg, I believe it was right knee, his entire leg looked like a noodle, where his other leg looked normal, for lack of a better term. So he says on this Instagram post, the reason I retired was I was deformed and basically crippled. This knee replacement and 2 years of rehab and training has been brutal. To just get my hips realigned was incredibly painful. To the haters, fuck off. To those who have championed and who championed my recovery and stood by me, thanks and love. I mean, let's be honest. Again, there's a lot of honesty today on the Jam Report. Kevin Nash is considered a giant, a big man. Used to play basketball. Did Hollywood work here and there. Was a stuntman, of course. For those who don't know, played Super Shredder in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 2, The Secret of the Ooze movie. Was in the first John Wick movie. People forget that. A lot of people forgotten that. He played, I believe, a Russian bouncer. And spoilers, he lived. John Wick let him live. After Kevin Nash's character realized why Wick was at the said club to begin with, like, you know what? Go ahead. I was never here. I never let you in. Or maybe they're saving him for Part 4 that we know is coming up. Coming out the same day as The Matrix 4. How is that possible? But whatever. Keanu. The Big Show returned this past Monday. I'm still sticking to the Kevin Nash story here. He was out for 2 years, ironically, doing his own Netflix show, which is going to debut pretty soon. And noticed, if you go back, if it's not already on YouTube, during his entrance, how he was walking up the steps to get into the ring. How careful he was. And if you thought his knees were padded and braced before he left 2 years ago, after his cage match with Braun Strowman and slammed through the fence that was never seen from him again up until this past Monday. These men are giants. Their knees take a toll. It's a lot of weight they're carrying. And if you don't work them out properly, you're going to be prone to injury, open up for surgery. You don't even have to necessarily injure yourself. It's just the wear and tear. In this case, your knees, but in general, your whole body as a giant, it catches up to you. I'm not saying giants such as Nash and Big Show are not meant to be in the wrestling business long term. Not at all. It had I guess, medical research and the technology that's available now to come to find out what's said with certain people. In other words, if Andre the Giant was alive today, he definitely would have been properly diagnosed with everything that was wrong with him, whether his organs, his bones, his heart, lungs, everything, his brain. It might have removed that tumor that that was causing his giantism. Big Show had it, and it was found early, and it was removed. Now he's going to live a long life. But giants in wrestling, in basketball, your knees, man, they're the ones that take the most beating. So I praise Kevin Nash for what he's done for the business. Some of it, many would say, it's like, well, a lot of controversy behind his career. Like, well, at the end of the day, look at his bank account compared to yours. How much controversy was that bad that the man is not wealthy enough to still be with us, still be part of movies and relevant? And you know what? Saying that out loud makes me realize why Eric Bischoff called his book the way it was, Controversy Creates Cash. Need I say more? As mentioned, Jushin Thunder Liger retired after Wrestle Kingdom 14, that is. Took to Twitter, and it was translated, in my case, via Google Translation. Retired at Tokyo Dome today. After all, the champion was strong. I can retire without any regrets. I am grateful for messages from various people. There will be a retirement ceremony tomorrow, which, last weekend. I want to go like a Liger to the end. So another man with a well-deserved retirement, Jushin Thunder Liger, appeared on our very first episode of Nitro. His opponent was Brian Pillman. Appeared for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Was it 3 years ago now? Bit disappointed that he couldn't make it for the Cruiserweight Classic, but considering how it was run, was a good thing. Or at least have a bit of a run. Anyway, even if it was NXT, people would have tuned in, or Raw or SmackDown to have a short run. But definitely worthy of a Hall of Fame induction anywhere in the world, for any promotion, for any pro wrestling promotion that has their Hall of Fame. So in 1 week, two legends retire, and Kevin Nash and Jushin Thunder Liger. If you're not seeing any Jushin Thunder Liger match, well, you know what? Go check out the one he had with Tyler Breeze, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. It's on the network. If you're not subscribed, I'm sure there are highlights on YouTube somewhere. Check it out. You'll be completely amazed and entertained that even at that point in his life could still go the way he did. And then I watch his Wrestle Kingdom final match. Unfortunately, I will eventually, but I'm sure he gave it his all, put everything he had, and called it quits. Again, well deserved. Chris Jericho and Cody Rhodes had the same idea when it comes to helping those in Australia who are still fighting those tremendous fires, unfortunately. It sucks, man. I know the states have had their shares of brush fires and the damage it could cause and the amount of effort it takes to rebuild and recover. But when it comes to loss of life, that's something completely different. I know a lot of people are concerned about the loss of wildlife and how can that be recovered. Well, many have been evacuating the fire zones, that all of the danger zones. Some have been living on the beach and watching some of the footage. The amount of fire basically blocks out the sun with the smoke and the fumes, turning the sky orange. Really surreal. But Rhodes and Jericho this week had similar ideas to help out. And that is, Cody has a new t-shirt available at ProWrestlingTees.com reflecting classic t-shirts of his late father. And Jericho is auctioning off the actual shirt he wore at Wrestle Kingdom before he squared off with Tanahashi. And right now, as of this past Wednesday, I want to say, the top bid on eBay for a Chris Jericho shirt that he wore at Wrestle Kingdom is going for $2,100. Matter of fact, let's see if I could quickly look at that. Bear with me, peeps. eBay, yeah, no, I'm not logging in. I'm just gonna check out what the current rate is. I don't think the bid is over, but well, no, I'm not buying a Jericho is Raw or would it be Wrestle Kingdom? Yes, you're listening to me in real time, folks. Searching for the Chris Jericho shirt that he wore at Wrestle Kingdom. Wow, one of them's going for $100. Man, that's not even an unofficial shirt. Huh. I don't see it. Do I have to be specific? Wrestle Kingdom shirt 14. How about that? No, that's Wrestle Kingdom 12. Ah, here it is. The auction would end on Monday. And it's currently up to $2,700. Chris Jericho, Wrestle Kingdom 14 match work t-shirt. And you will see Jericho holding it up. It's torn, unfortunately, but I think he ripped it intentionally, and it's available now. So if you can outbid $2,700 American in Australia, it's over $4,000. So yeah, good luck with that. But it's definitely good for. Let me try that again. It's for a good cause, and my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone affected by these tremendous wildfires out in Australia. It really, really sucks. It's a place and destination I thought of visiting one day. How much of it would, by the time I do that is, how much of it would be restored? Who knows? But right now, that's not the time to think about that. It's more of the people. If you have family out there, my thoughts and prayers are with you. I really feel bad for the wildlife animals that's been lost so far. And kudos and much love go out to the ones sacrificing their own lives trying to save these animals. Kangaroos, koala bears, among others. Really heartbreaking, really depressing. And I hope everything works out for everyone by the time it's all over. This weekend will be the new edition of the Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and his guest will be Mayor Kane. Well, officially Mayor Glenn Jacobs from Knoxville, Tennessee, but the Big Red Machine himself, Kane, will sit down with Steve Austin. And so far, between the conversations with The Undertaker and Goldberg, although the Goldberg one, I felt that nothing much new was shared that we didn't already know, although Goldberg would shed a lot of light on subjects from his point of view on what happened as far as the Georgia Dome appearance, going one-on-one with Hulk Hogan and winning the world title then on Nitro, the ending of a streak, how much he disliked Scott Hall. But definitely more interest to hear what Kane would have to say. And he's going to be out of character, folks. Just a heads up. It's amazing how much freedom Stone Cold has with whichever guest he would have on his show, and speak candidly. Just put away all the kayfabe bullshit and just speak as a damn human being. We know you can learn a lot more from the source rather than just read about it from rumors and of the different websites that, oh, from my source says, or this source says. Not to discredit them, but there are times when those stories can and been proven wrong. Hell, I've reported stories that were inaccurate, and I tried my best the following episode to correct it. So not everything is foolproof, folks. So definitely tune in for that episode of the Broken Skull Sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin this Sunday. Of course, this happens after NXT TakeOver Blackpool 2 takes place as well. I'm pretty tied up between, after this, I got a session at the studios out in Tampa Bay, and tomorrow morning as well, kind of a follow-up. So I'll be lucky to catch what's left of the live broadcast, because I believe that's around 12 noon Eastern time that takeover takes place. But there's always the on demand, so it's not like I'm going to miss it entirely. So I'll get back to it at some point this weekend, and definitely catch Stone Cold's interview with Kane. So bad news for Will Ospreay fans, as it's been confirmed of his injury, believed to have been a broken heel or ankle. Either way, it's painful. It took place during a match with Takahashi. No, I'm sorry. Hiro. Oh my goodness, this is why I can't pronounce Japanese names, and I apologize for that. Tashahashiki. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced it. But it was during his match that Ospreay performed a Sasuke special and received the injury upon impact. I have not seen the footage, but those in attendance said it did not look right. So Will Ospreay out of action for disclosed amount of time, but it sucks, man. Ankle, heel, Achilles. Oh, geez. All that sounds painful just saying it out loud. But get well soon to Will Ospreay. Ruby Riott has been spotted at the WWE Performance Center recently, and the guts of this lady to get back, who, by the way, just celebrated a birthday this week, 29 years old. Unbelievable. But she had not one, but two shoulder surgeries. one in August of last year. And then back in May was the other. I know it's not out of order, but she had to recover first from the May surgery, and then in August of 2019, get the other one. And she's been out for pretty much ever since May of last year. And it was, she was involved in a fatal four-way match. That was her last match. She was not expected to return at all for the rest of 2019, obviously, especially after surgery. But after rehabbing and physical therapy sessions, it said that she's feeling a lot better and slowly getting back into the routine of in-ring action. And by the time she's set to go and cleared by WWE doctors, where will she fit in? The Riot Squad has obviously been broken up. Sarah Logan, who returned for the first time in I don't know how many months, attacking Before the Bell Charlotte Flair this past week on Raw. She looked great. Had she not turned around and I could see her face paint on, I could have sworn that was a different person, because she lost some weight. She looks great. And maybe setting up a feud with Charlotte, who knows? But kudos for Sarah Logan for getting in shape. And, of course, Liv Morgan. Well, that kind of died a slow death almost immediately. 1 week she's confessing her love and her relationship with Lana, and then the next it's all but forgotten, even though they might rekindle the whole storyline by next Monday night. Okay, She'll be in the corner of Rusev when he takes on Bobby Lashley again. So a 1 week cooling period after you just set up this tremendous angle between Lana and Morgan. But as for Ruby Riott, having a bilateral injury on her right shoulder and then her left. So she has bragging rights here, folks. If Vince McMahon can come back and say, well, I had double quad surgery repaired and blah, blah, blah. Well, then I say Ruby Riott's career should be skyrocket a little more than expected when she returns. Maybe not immediately in the championship picture, but definitely in the higher ups. I mean, good Lord, she wrestled Ronda Rousey towards the end of her run here before she had surgery and had to go away for a while. And Ronda had her in how many arm bars, and her shoulders were already injured at the time. So, yeah, that takes a lot of guts, a lot of balls for anyone to go through that. So, can't wait to see Ruby Riott back. I actually met her back in November when Amalie Arena was doing the pre-sale tickets for WrestleMania, and it had like an impromptu NXT event on the plaza. For those who are familiar with the Thunder Plaza, right outside Amalie Arena, and she looked great. I mean, she wasn't in a cast or a sling or anything. Looked great. She looked very cheerful to meet so many fans. Signed a picture for me, and yeah, can't wait to see her back in the ring. A big shout out and congratulations go out to Mercedes Martinez, a top independent wrestler, especially out here in the Florida territories. Had the privilege of meeting her late last year, not 2019. Let me rephrase that, 2018. Having a show with WXW. That's the Wild Samoans wrestling promotion. And, of course, had a appearance during the Mae Young Classic. And as reported to the Performance Center out in Orlando, or would be, I should say, later this month, to be officially part of the WWE roster. I know many people who personally know Martinez and cannot be any happier for her. I mean, she's worked hard. She's great in the ring. Again, check her out during the Mae Young Classic. She made her official debut in pro wrestling back in 2000. So she's had quite a career going, spanning 20 years, and she's still very young to do another 20. So once again, congratulations to Mercedes Martinez. Can't wait to see how and when your career takes off, whether it's in the NXT, which more than likely is going to happen. She'll start off in NXT before she makes it to the main roster. Oh, there was a huge... Oh, man. How can I put this? Well, The Miz was on WWE Backstage this week and took a shot, whether it was intentional or not, but more than likely it was because it's the freaking Miz. He made a reference and took a shot at CM Punk, saying that not to change the culture. He's not changing the culture, which is a nod to CM Punk's debut on WWE Backstage, where he said that he's changing the culture. So Punk did a response tweet that later on was deleted. Man, it was brutal. I'm gonna read verbatim what he said, but I'm gonna tweak it as far as how I make certain or specific references on my show to certain people or to certain places, and for those who've been following me long enough would recognize it when I say it. So here we go. So Miz not changing the culture. So CM Punk's response is, "Go suck a blood money covered dick in parts unknown, you fucking dork." Let that sink in. And for those who don't know, parts unknown is my reference to the location where Crown Jewel takes place, or where the first and only biggest Royal Rumble took place, or the Super Royal Rumble, whatever the hell that was called. Superstar Showdown. Yeah, that area. So, blood money. That could be taken in so many ways. And CM Punk is slated to return to WWE backstage on the 21st. So between now and then, I expect Punk not to bring this up ever again, at least not until I'm pretty sure it's going to be mentioned on backstage. Whether it's Booker T or Paige, Renee Young. So Punk had a few colorful words to say to The Miz a few weeks ago. And it's supposed to be, for Punk anyway, open forum. You can say pretty much whatever you want. Maybe not what he said word for word on his tweet, but along those lines, and keeping it, at the very least, PG-13. Or, I guess, TV-14, since it's a television show. But at least Punk started a movement of sorts back in 2011 that only now it seems that it's getting recognition and it's getting picked up. So if you haven't seen already, if you head over to Good Humor's website, they are now listing WWE ice cream sandwiches. Very similar to the ice cream on a stick that had, it was like a cookie covered, vanilla flavored middle, and chocolate backing. Love those. I love those. And that became addictive because each box that the ice cream came in had a trading card. I have no clue whatever happened to those things, but I doubt they will have a similar strategy for this because these sandwiches are much smaller. And the website's already featuring, printed on the sandwiches are John Cena, Roman Reigns, Becky Lynch, and Randy Savage. So I don't get too many ice cream trucks in my neighborhood, but if these things start selling, say at a local supermarket near me, I'm definitely picking these up. And if it's during the summertime, which is 95 or above degrees, I got to rush there and rush them home immediately before they melt. Yeah, that intense. So thank you, CM Punk. You did it. Took nearly the whole decade, but you did it. Despite said injury, Kaylee Lee Ray will still perform and is expected to at NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool 2, despite having a shoulder injury herself, and she has refused treatment. She's also banged up. Also banged up is Wesley Blake, who hurt his left foot and is going for an X-ray. And he is listed as questionable. Well, he performed this past week during the Dusty Rhodes Classic, although it was in a losing effort. But he looked pretty good running around or hopping around. So maybe now, because he was scheduled and advertised to appear in the first round of the Dusty Rhodes Classic, then now he'll take the time off to find out what's going on. Royal Rumble's coming up. And so far, the lineup is as follows. Daniel Bryan will go one-on-one with The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, for the Universal Championship. Becky Lynch defending her women's title in a rematch from last year's Royal Rumble, except the roles are reversed in more ways than one. It is now Becky defending the Raw women's title against Asuka, where last year it was Asuka defending the SmackDown women's title against Becky. Becky submitted in her match with Asuka and still went to later on become a double champion at WrestleMania. So I guess even some of the greatest can still suffer a loss and rebound, because Up until now, this storyline, this conclusion anyway to this storyline, has only recently been resurfaced. And many are saying it's thanks to Paul Heyman. And we're not, you know what, that will not surprise me, because Heyman likes to pay attention to a lot of detail. And even going back a year or so to say, hey, whatever happened to this and that was never resolved or whatnot. So let's just go back to it. So why not? And it was coincidental timing that Kairi Sane fell to the injury bug with her slight concussions. But Kairi Sane recently posted on her Instagram that she'll be back real soon. Or she said, see you real soon. But she's still one half of the women's tag team champions. As far as the women's Royal Rumble match itself, so far Charlotte Flair is the only one in the match, as she made that announcement last week on Raw. As far as the men's Royal Rumble match, this past week on Raw, we learned that Brock Lesnar will not be defending the WWE Championship at all at the event. Instead, will be in the actual Royal Rumble match itself at number 1. Will he go the distance? Can he go the distance? We're talking over an hour here. And 30 guys from SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. And many are hoping that number 2 will be Matt Riddle. Take that for what it's worth. And you know what? Honestly, I hope so too. Others already announced for the men's Royal Rumble: Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Eric Rowan, Randy Orton, despite the fake injury, Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, aka Ricochet, and Drew McIntyre. Some of those names mentioned versus Brock Lesnar, well, we've seen the majority of them, except Drew McIntyre. Now, if those two big bulls collide, well, hopefully McIntyre, more than anything, gets to look like $1 billion during that time. The New York Post has reported, and this, I just found this out last night, and it was reposted by PW Insider. So either way, it's an unfortunate situation. But former Nitro Girl from WCW, Miss Jones, she is among the defendants in a lawsuit from a teacher who claims that she was targeted by the Department of Education in New York City in an attempt to run her out of her job due to her age, 54. Whew. Well, Brenda Marie Alexander is alleging that Miss Jones, real name Carmel Macklin, took Alexander's master's degree project and repurposed it as her own, despite only rearranging how it was produced, and then ignored Alexander's attempt to confront and discuss the situation. Not a good look. Alexander also claimed that Macklin was among the administrators who forced her to teach unmanageable class sizes, as many as 40 students at a time. Also part of the claim, Macklin, who is now a assistant principal in this high school in Queens, New York, also was involved in trying to get Alexander punished for an incident where she was restrained. What her lawsuit claimed was a violent student during the same incident, and became physically involved in whatever altercation took place between the teacher and the student here. Alexander was the only teacher who was reprimanded for the incident and was removed from her teaching. And even after the allegations against her were dismissed internally, she alleges that Macklin, Miss Jones from WCW, and others worked to prevent her from returning to teach, and that harassment continued even after she transferred to a new assignment at another high school in Queens, New York. So, what the fuck? Now, when you see harassment in the title of a story. Of course, it could be physical, it could be sexual, but this is more of a personal attack. It sounds like. I'm not siding with anybody here. But what the hell? You go from age discrimination, then allegedly trying to get her out of a job for that reason, and then trying again because was supposedly involved in an altercation between another teacher and a student, a physical altercation, that is, trying to, or did, allegedly, place her in a classroom with over 40 students and teach them. I mean, you'd be lucky if you get the attention of a puppy dog for 40 seconds, let alone teaching 40 students and get their attention. And you can tell them to put your cell phones away, silence all your smart devices, and blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be that one bad apple, usually sitting in the back. And even after being basically reassigned to a different school, still being picked on, allegedly. So what the fuck? Oh, man. It sucks. It really does. I had, up until this report, I had no clue that Carmel Macklin, a.k.a. Miss Jones, I think her natural girl name was Chameleon. So if you look her up, you know what I'm talking about. Well, first of all, wow, even to become an assistant principal after WCW, but to allegedly pull these taxes, I'm like, tactics, not taxes. Those are due, by the way. What the hell? Who does that? Well, apparently and allegedly, Macklin does. So it sounds like this is going to be a drawn-out trial, if it makes it that far. I don't know what the position and what the Department of Education in New York is going to do about this. Of course, all of this has to be proven because right now all it's saying, all it is that I'm reading is hearsay. But either way, I hope this gets cleared up and we can move on from this because there are a lot more problems and issues going on in this school system in New York than something like this that can be resolved right away. But because it wasn't, and now it's expanded into a different school, yeah. It's no excuse for that. It really isn't. Some sad news to report that wrestling legend Palmero Firpo, and I really hope I pronounced his name right, passed away this week at the age of 89. Hailed from Argentina, who wrestled from the 1950s all the way through the 80s and was featured basically in every territory known to man back then, having feuds with the likes of the original Sheik and feuded with Nick Bockwinkel and Mad Dog Vachon in the AWA. His daughter put out a lengthy statement on Twitter announcing to the world what happened, and another legend gone, possibly the first of the year. And it's unfortunate. So I offer my prayers and condolences to his family, and may he rest in peace. This concludes episode 79 of the JM Report. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening. Things are coming. Big things are coming for Good Old JM in 2020. More interviews, more interaction. It's just finding the time and place for everything. I'm not going to be lazy about it, but I just need the, set time and set place to put everything in perspective and to be able to share with everyone. And I want to thank the recently subscribers to my YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking posts I placed recently on Instagram and on Facebook. Just search GoodOlJM and you'll see that unique icon, unique logo that I have on my profile pic. And yeah, you can follow me even on Twitter at GoodOlJM. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, pretty much just search GoodOlJM. I am there. So with that said, everyone, Happy New Year. I'll be back here next time. So till then, everyone, behave and be good.
Open